Okay, so this is like one of the first ones that I looked at and was immediately like, oh yeah, definitely like the Sixers. Like looked at the opening numbers and we're like definitely going to want the Sixers here. However, because of my ongoing terror surrounding Joel Embiid and James Harden and just the injury gods, I was like, I don't want to get a bet in and then feel dumb when the number goes the other way because like Embiid sprains an ankle in the last preseason game or whatever, or like Harden has like there's some sort of chicken wings eating contest at a club and he's just out indefinitely. So I was concerned, and so I went ahead and waited, and now like this is down to 2.5. I still find value on this. My heavily manually adjusted power rating on this still gives me value here by about a half point. I guess one of this brings up like an interesting question, Albert, of when you see a number move like this, let's take the baseline open of 4 and it's moved a point and a half. Like at what point do you feel like as a long-term bettor, you've lost too much value on the open to go ahead and play this unless your play is like, I think the Sixers should be favored. Like in those cases, sure. Like if your number pops out that like this should be Sixers -1, then yeah, you should absolutely go ahead and play this. But given that this is within the range, I think, of outcomes, is there still value, do you think, on the Sixers relative to the opening number?
Yeah, man, that's a great question, Matt. I mean, when it comes to betting, especially from handicapping perspective, you don't want to chase steam generally.
Sure.
But this is a game where I bet Jay can align with me here. But I think we both like the Sixers, and it doesn't even matter what number. I'm sure Jay is on a money line as well. I think from the first game, from the jump here, I think the Sixers are just going to be a lot more motivated, a lot more focused, a lot less noise off the court as well. And I think those guys are very, very focused. We saw in the preseason, Philadelphia is actually going for wins in the preseason. Teams don't really do that, but we're seeing that this year. It's also a make it or break year, not only for Doc Rivers, but for Joel Embiid as well.
All right, Jay, you said that you're on the Sixers here. That was your first bet here on the show. What's your cap for why you like Philly in the spot?
Yeah, and I sure hope I cash the first bet on the show as well. But first off, this is a huge revenge game as well, man. The last time these two teams faced off, they lost 87 to 135 back on February 15th. Obviously, that was before James Harden got over there to Philadelphia. They had Matisse Thybulle running the point guard position that night. So they are 7-1 against the spread last 8 meetings as well. No Robert Williams hurts the paint defense for the Boston Celtics and the rebound as well. If you want to look at preseason, which I don't take too much into, but they got killed on the rebounds, offense and defense, the Celtics. So that's something that they need to solve here. They're running a lot of small ball, kind of Horford at the center. Luke Cornett's been kind of banged up, but I'm guessing he's going to be the backup. Regardless, I don't see them having enough to stop Embiid. The Sixers team, the bench got really deep as well. Add Milton. They still have Milton, Thybulle as well, Niang. Korkmaz got Daniel House Jr. as well. So I think the Sixers have a big rebound edge. I think they Embiid feasts in this game as well. And I like the Sixers here with the bench advantage. And just a little info, Marcus Smart did kind of tweak his groin injury. So he's a little banged up. Malcolm Brogdon is a little banged up as well with a leg injury. Those two are going to play, but may not be 100%. I think the Sixers are the better, deeper team. And I like them to be hungry to start the season off 1-0.
All right, so let's talk about the Embiid thing. One of the other reasons that I kind of hung on here and didn't outright bet it, the only reason I'm really terrified of this is Al Horford. Old man Horford. Yep. And Horford is giving Embiid fits. It's not a weird thing because Al Horford's a very good defender. I think there's a special combination here of Horford's veteran savvy, his ability to pressure the inbound pass by getting around him. He's like quick enough to get around Embiid to pressure that pass. He's strong enough to at least not get, murdered by Joel in terms of in the post. So he's gonna like hang in there and be okay. Since Embiid's rookie season, the Celtics are 8-3 straight up and 6-4-1 against the spread with Horford facing Embiid. It's been a huge matchup advantage for him. It's one reason why I don't necessarily love Embiid props for this game. I'll probably be looking at Tyrese Maxey props instead, especially 3-pointers made is a big talking point in our Action Network Slack. I'm a little bit worried about that. However, on the plus side here, the Sixers use with Embiid an adjusted rotation. So a lot of the superstars in the NBA, they play the entire first quarter. The Sixers actually stagger. So Embiid goes out by between the 6 and 8 minute mark, and then he comes back in to start the second. Mm-hmm. You can't play Horford. Maybe they're not going to match him, right? They're not going to match Horford in game 1 with Embiid, which means that poor Luke Cornett is going to get minutes versus Embiid. And like I asked this question in the Action Slack today, like the real question here is, does Joe Mazzulla, interim coach of the Boston Celtics, care whether Luke Cornett lives or dies? Because if he leaves Luke Cornett in there, I'm really terrified Embiid's going to absolutely put him in a body bag. It's a terrifying matchup for me. And there's not a lot of options. Like Boston didn't add a lot of center depth here, and that should be a big advantage. That's one reason, Albert, why I think that for a live play, I want to see if the Celtics start off hot, because you kind of mentioned like there are less distractions. Again, this is where my contrarian kind of brain goes from covering the league so long. I'm a little worried that the Celtics, because I do pay a little bit more attention to the preseason. Celtics looked good. I'm worried they're in the bunker mentality of it's us against the world, and everyone thinks that we're screwed because Udoka got ousted, and now it's all disarray. I hate it when guys are like, oh, you think that we're in trouble? Okay, we'll show you. We made that, we won the East last year. We're still the best team. That makes me concerned. But my ideal scenario is the Celtics get off to a strong lead behind 3-point shooting, an outlier performance, which obviously can burn you sometimes. And then it gives us a chance to basically bet. I want to bet Sixers second quarter. Like I want to bet Sixers second quarter or Sixers to come back at the half. Like that's going to be an angle I'm looking to play. Does that track with you?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And honestly, you mentioned the contrarian mindset. For me, the contrarian mindset, and you're right, Al Horford has played amazing against Joel Embiid. It's just a great matchup for Horford. He has the size, the strength, and he can stay with Embiid. But without Robert Williams, I think he's going to have to play a lot more tentative because he can get into foul trouble. Ooh. And, one thing that we saw from a metric standpoint last season, the James Harden, Joel Embiid pick and roll was the most devastating pick and roll when they played together out of any combination in the league. And I think they're going to milk that all first half, get Horford into foul trouble, and we'll see either Cornett or they'll have to play small. And I think that's when Embiid is going to feast. And you mentioned this guy. I think he's going to have a huge season this season. He's from Dallas, but Tyrese Maxey is my pick for most improved player. So I think he's going to eat in this game as well. Jay mentioned it. Marcus Smart is not 100%. So I think Maxey's not only going to get a lot of opportunity and shots in the first team, but he's going to run that second team.
So look, early season using models is going to be pretty useless until we get some sample on these new teams and new players. Based off the last season number with a lot of returning players on both sides, I got this total at 225 and it's still only popping at 216.5. I bet at 215. That's my best bet for Sixers Celtics is I'm actually taking the over. You have a high 3-point variance team in the Boston Celtics. You have a high offense. I looked at, again, I don't care about the preseason results. I care about how you played. And the Sixers put up huge offensive numbers with their starters, just massive numbers. So I'm looking for a scoring fest here. I know it's 2 Eastern Conference teams. I know the Celtics are great defensively. Obviously, the Sixers aren't going to run with Joel Embiid. I do think the second unit might run a little bit with D'Anthony Melton running, and some of the ways that Montrezl Harrell, like that unit's a little bit better built to run. Jay, I know you don't bet a lot of overs, but I'm on the over on this game. Can you see this being not a score fest? I'm not expecting this like 230 or anything north, but I do think that the number is soft at 215 to 216.
Yeah, I could definitely see a higher scoring output here, and that's mainly because of Robert Williams not being there. Yeah. Obviously, the Celtics defense is light years different, night and day difference without him on the floor, and so I obviously think there'll be more offensive rebound opportunities for the Sixers as well. Maybe some easy baskets in the point, easy baskets in the paint. But just the way I look at the Celtics, it's real simple. With Robert Williams in there, defense really good in the paint. Without him, it's almost non-existent. So they basically definitely have to stop the guys on the perimeter, but it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be hard for me to see them contain Joel Embiid. And one more last thing I want to say here, this is also Joe Mazzulla's first NBA game as well, so maybe a little bit of learning curve with calling some plays, game action. Obviously, he did a preseason game, but this is the real thing here now. So I do give the edge to the Sixers in this one, and the money has come on the over, man. It was at 214 and a half, start to get hit up. It's up to like 216 and a half now. So the money has definitely come on the over today.
The books want Boston here. It's 71 in our system. It's 71% Sixers on the ticket line, and then 90% of the money is on the Sixers. I think 2 is absolutely. I will say this: like, do not if it's 2 at your book, I would like make sure you get that hook. And the reason I say that, when this is popped to 2, sharps have come in and bet it back. Like, that's the buy point for some of the sharper groups is 2. And you can say, like, is 2.5 really that big of a difference? Look, if you're doing this, if you listen to this podcast, you're betting long enough term. I'm just telling you that 2 point needs to be the point where you're like, okay, I'm going to pass. If this comes back the other, now I will say this, I like the cap enough. And obviously Jay and Albert agree. If this goes back to 3 at any point, then I think you're good to bet the Sixers. I do like them in this game, and I probably will wind up convincing myself to brave the waters and take a money line, but we'll see how that goes.